And this was a random picture that I found on Flickr, using the Creative Commons search. So essentially what we believe is that we don't need a paradigm shift. We need a paradigm caps lock. So that's what's really needed. So, so when we're asked to speak about humor and, and technology and things like that at an event like this, the most important takeaway for all of you is the coming slide, which is the architecture diagram. So, Ramesh, you may want to explain this since you're obviously an expert.
Yeah, in architecture. Actually, I don't know anything about the techie part, so I'll talk about half the topic. Okay, but at the bottom, whatever that is. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there are various types of humor, man. And finally, if you have to, you're talking about there's a new product conclave and stuff like that, right? It's about products. And the first thing about products is about killing some cows, sacred cows, which come out there. If you don't break that, it's not going to work. And actually humor works like that. All humor entertains a large set of people at the cost of a few, whoever is being made fun of, right?
Yeah.
And at the end of it, breaking that, sacred cow talk, death. In Twitter, I keep getting trolled when I, write things. But the point is that when you look at a problem and make fun of it, it just becomes easier to solve.
Exactly.
For me, nothing is sacred. Death is not sacred. Icons are not sacred. I got into a lot of flack. I still remember when Jyoti Basu died.
Yeah.
Okay, and he had nearly become the Prime Minister, right? And
correct, yeah.
Coincidentally, he died at 11:55 p.m., 11:55 a.m. So it was like, Jyoti Basu yet again missed becoming PM at that time. The fact is, when you look, death is not sacred, and Jyoti Basu doesn't care, dude, what I write about him. He's dead.
There's actually an interesting point. Yeah. When Margaret Thatcher died, there was actually this excellent essay in The Guardian that says that this logic that once people die, we must not make fun of them is completely ridiculous. Especially for public figures who may have done a lot of damage while being in power. It's absolutely important that we speak about the good and the bad that they did. So just because they're dead doesn't mean that you should only speak about the good stuff.
Yeah. So yes, I think if I were dying, number one, the person who's dead is dead. He's not going to see it. And the person who really care about him shouldn't be on Twitter now, man. They
should be paying their respect. Right. Exactly.
So if you see, fundamentally, yes, at the base it's always that LOL at someone's expense is there. Yeah. Self-deprecatory if you feel like, upset stereotyping. And today you have so many ways to put that humor out, man. And I still remember SoundCloud. You do some serious stuff there, right? But he does the T. Rajendra stuff on SoundCloud, if you haven't read. Today, the audience is just there, for just about everything someone is there. Actually, what I do on Twitter is exactly what I was doing as a kid, I used to tell PJs to my classmates, one of my school classmates is here. He might remember and not have very pleasant memories about that. But now the same thing. It's not that you have to change yourself for Twitter. Suddenly you have to be what you are, and suddenly you have these media, which have come up.
And the most popular oft-repeated joke used to be that an imaginary joke is people as IJ.
Oh,
I don't know if you remember that.
Okay, really?
So anyway, so basically what this essentially says is that, you need a keen sense of observation, and then, from right to left, it's what's considered to be degrees of quality of humor. So so the simplest kind of joke is where you use racial stereotypes, ethnic stereotypes, gender stereotypes. So you basically make fun of an entire group of people. And, second is, when you laugh at someone's expense, specifically. The third is when you laugh at yourself. Right? So in the sense that we should be able to laugh at ourselves, our companies, what we work for, what we stand for, our own knowledge and all of that. The last one is obviously the toughest one, which is absurdist or incongruent humor. And so the pop culture middleware is essentially where the timing comes in. So when people basically put things in context at the right time, so because the joke needs timing. So I want to probably take you to Ramesh Srivats' greatest tweet, or at least the most popular tweet ever. So sort of, 3 years back when he said that Sachin Tendulkar's birthday today, let's celebrate it as Run Master. Right? And so in the sense that it combines Indian mythology, it combines our love of mythology and things like that, and our love for Sachin Tendulkar, and the timing of it, his birthday, and so on. So it's so it works that way. Here's another example of something that I did a while back. So this is what we call global, right? So this is a Mona Lisa, but it's obviously not acceptable in India. Right? In India, because women are not supposed to leave their hair free. You're supposed to tie it respectfully back, and obviously as a married woman, she's supposed to have a bindi. where on earth is a Mangal Sutra and things like that. So basically, so this is the glocal Mona Lisa with her hair neatly pinned and all of that. I don't know how many of you know, there is actually a Quora page dedicated to curating the best tweets of Ramesh Srivats.
Yeah, I know. There's another Quora question which I want to answer.
what is particularly interesting is the question on the top right, the third question from the top is Ramesh Srivats rich?
Yeah.
We have our priorities, right? So that's exactly what we'd like to know.
No. I think I should go and clear that up once and for all. Okay.
Right. And humor is a lot like technology. Now this is where it becomes a stretch. I started out by saying that there's actually perhaps not much connection, but now I'm having to invent stuff, just like how homeopaths sort of sell themselves as medicine. Humor is a lot like technology, in the sense that solutions have constraints. Right? So you can't operate under the assumption that you have infinite budget and infinite hardware and infinite RAM and so on. So basically pretty much like this. So this is pretty much like this inflexible read-only non-search indexed monolithic component, which is Michelangelo's God in the Sistine Chapel, right? So even with that, we believe polymorphism is still possible. So basically the rules are that can you take Michelangelo's God and not change his pose, not do anything with it, but still make him do different things and basically make God do different things. So if you turn him vertically, he could be in a chai shop, right? So be seated behind someone, he could be a chain snatcher. Could be a bowler, right? And of course, if he has the athleticism, as he clearly seems to, he could be John T. Rhodes as well. So by the way, so this was the original. And of course, he could be in school as well. And so here's one by Ramesh Srivats on the recently announced none of the above. The fact that, you could vote for none of the above. And, I told you about absurdist humor, right? So humor that doesn't really target anyone in particular, but it's still funny. That's the best kind of humor. And this is a classic from Ramesh Srivats when the dollar clearly sort of reached 60 rupees, Ramesh Srivats did this.
I got spat on for this.
Really?
They asked me,
okay,
go.
Okay. Maybe hardcore fans of Daler Mehndi and Ruby Bhatia. One Daler is 60 rupees.
No, actually, I have three kinds of stand-up comedians. You're talking about bottom is stereotyping. Yeah. For me, Russell Peter is the, stereotyping comedy. Punjabis are like this, Gujaratis are like this.
Chinese.
For me, the next level stand-up comedian is Seinfeld. Observational comedy, right? An insight comedy. He observes this keenly and, when he says something, you say, fuck yeah, that's right. I am like that, right? But for me, the highest level is actually George Carlin. Who actually has a philosophy, has a system of thought which he presents. Correct. Where humor is just a couch to tell what you really want.
So here's a message to it. It's not just sort of entertaining.
And frankly, none of you will believe it, but I also have. People actually ask me, are you never serious? I tell them all my tweets are serious because my secret desire is to start a religion one day. It's not much of a secret now. So I have a religious name, Srivats Baba, which is what I'm going to call myself, and I'm working towards it. But therefore, the humor is not always, it's not necessarily at someone's expense. Humor is just a way to get, you can get really nice thoughts across just in a more palatable way, just because you use humor.
Correct. The general rule in India is that even if it's not at someone's expense, we have such a large population that someone will eventually say, no, that is at my expense.
Taking offenses, of course, there. Yeah. This particular one is below all three. This particular tweet.
So this is another one by Ramesh on the rained out Champions Trophy. They said, maybe this is what the logo ought to be. He just sort of twisted that photo. And this is another thing that I did a while back when Yahoo underwent this very, very well publicized logo change. And essentially I said, maybe the problem is that all these logos, for me the greatest school of logo design is basically the Indian government school of logo design. You might be familiar with it. This is basically the Indian government school. All logos are circular and they have a certain pattern, they have a certain formula. So I applied that formula and I write out the logo for Yahoo. So basically you always start with concentric circles of some kind. And then you need something on the outside that represents something related to what Yahoo does, which in Yahoo's case is spider, because a spider sort of crawls the web and so on in Yahoo. And not that they do search anymore, but they're still reasonably close enough that I can use the spider all around. then, right at the center should be the crux of what it is that they're trying to do, which is they're trying to curate knowledge, which is the tree of knowledge, and so on. But that's not enough. The Indian government school of logo design says that there should be more details, right? So obviously, what do trees have? Trees have fruits, and those fruits are Tumblr blogs and Yahoo emails, right? So, and after that, you need to actually put the name of the company, and you also need a motto, right? IIT has this complicated Sanskrit motto, whatever it is, and you have all of these. IIM has this completely unreadable logo, and so I basically said, fine, let's pick a random Sanskrit quotation. It doesn't really matter because most people don't understand Sanskrit, right? But when you say something in Sanskrit, it sounds profound. It sounds like something Krishna said on the battlefield, right? So, avataptena kulastitam tabaitat actually means acting like a mongoose on hot ground. You wouldn't believe it, but it sounds majestic. It sounds like something from the Upanishads. It sounds like something that's deeply philosophical. But in some sense, that actually the acting like a mongoose on hot ground represents the exclamation mark at the end of Yahoo, just to give that excitement. Right? So, and the last one is, of course, that you can't leave the sides empty. So you basically take the fire department, which therefore, because David Philo, FD, so sort of, fire department, you can take that, and then Jerry Yang, so we take the yin out of the yang and only take yang and use that, and so you pack all of the symbolism. This is my proposed logo for Yahoo. The last thing that I want to show you before we sort of get into a general chat is that there's humor in core technology too. So I believe there's humor in HTML and JavaScript too. I don't know how many of you here sort of intimately familiar. For those who are familiar, I'll share source code and all that. But this is something that I sort of discovered a while back. It's called telescopic fiction. So the rules are simple. I mean, you have to use JavaScript and obviously HTML, and every link, which is the orange one, can be expanded to insert another phrase, right? So, but once it expands, the whole thing has to still make sense, and you can't change what was on the outside. So you have to keep inserting stuff as you click on every link. So that's the basic rules. And it results in an interesting thing. So it says that she said no, right? So it sounds like some girl rejecting a boy, maybe, right? So let's click and find out what happens. She said that she was going to say no. So now the sort of whole complexion has changed. Let's see what this is about. She said that it was she said there was a hard decision to make, but she was going to say no. Right? What was a hard decision to make? Well, she was a hard choice between Amit and Karthik, but she had a decision to make, but she was going to say no. What is this decision? And it could change her life, but she was going to say no. What for her life? So she wanted time to think about it. Both wanted an immediate answer, but she was still going to say no. Right? And you can kind of expand this and say, but she was late for a lesson with Peter, her dubstep yoga guru. She was going to walk in late. He was going to say no. So it's kind of completely changed now. So what is this answer? And both were giving her plaintive looks, but she was late for a lesson with Peter, and so on. And she was going to say no. So who is Amit and Karthik? Turns out Amit is the Labrador Retriever. And Karthik. And who's Karthik? Karthik is the Doberman. But wait, what is Amit the Labrador Retriever? No, Amit the software guy who owned the Labrador Retriever. And Karthik, the Doberman, both were really sweet and deserved to come along, and she was in two minds. Basically speaking about Hiti. And, well, the Chennai Dog Show first prize winning Doberman. Right? So, and Chennai's secretary of the All India Rummy Players Club was recently bitten by Santana Gopalan, the Madurai Dog Show prize winning Doberman. So you get the idea, right? So you can kind of completely build a story like that. So the JavaScript code for this, I'm happy to share with you so that you guys can explore the same thing. So that was the PowerPoint at least.
Very good.
Right? So what do you think are some key takeaways?
From the PowerPoint?
From the PowerPoint. from the minutes of the meeting.
Yeah, just some general stuff here. You were talking about why humor is like technology, right?
Yeah.
In the sense, so I can come up with one or two contrived connections.
Exactly.
Right? In the sense. Especially when you're doing new products, right? Humor polarizes. Good, at least the kind of humor because of the fact that people get offended. Yeah. Like in Twitter, it always happens. Yeah. If you say something bad about Salman, SRK guys are after you. I mean, they appreciate. If you say something good about, so the Salman, SRK is on polarity. Sachin Dravid is a polarity.
Dada.
No, Sachin Dravid. Yeah. I've noticed, in fact, when Dravid does well, Dravid guys are happy. When Sachin does well, Dravid fans try to bring in Dravid. Sachin, Dravid, Modi, Rahul, Digvijay Singh and Sense. I think they're two polarized, thing. So the fact itself remains that, it causes polarization. And for me, when you do products, right, we do products in our company. For me, a great product is always, it's not about being something nice and sweet for everybody. It's always about taking sides, deciding that this works, this not. Yeah. And that is a good contrived connection between human and technology, right?
And, and since it's always a good idea at any product conclave to connect everything to Apple. Everything to Apple.
That's true.
So Steve Jobs was a great example of someone who polarized.
Yeah, he polarized a lot. So that, and more than anything else, right, we're walking, but humor in our life, right, we all lead pretty, especially in a product company and stuff like that, it's a painful life. Like Mahesh was telling me, he's my CTO, that any problem you tell him, when it's done, tomorrow one. Can we make a new search and I'll be done by tomorrow. Okay. And
there's this unique software effort estimation model based on. Tomorrow. Yeah, it'll be done by end of day.
Yeah. So, it's what happens, of course, it doesn't happen tomorrow. But when you do these things, you are, life is tough. You are facing disappointments, you are facing screw-ups. You sit and start taking yourself very seriously, it's very difficult to survive. I used, then you're much better off working for somebody. If you can't handle, I used to work, I was in advertising till 2008. Then I started a company called Hungry and Foolish. So in 2 years it wound up, I lost all my money. In fact, I called it Hungry and Foolish for Steve Jobs, but it turned out to be very true. So I call it, I became starved and stupid, instead of hungry and foolish. But, there's no one moping, right? You have to just let it go, have fun, okay? You have to not give a damn, because if you start caring too much about failure, life is pretty difficult here. And humor is one of the tools in which, you don't give a damn. Of course, the serious stuff matters. I've been sitting here for the last half an hour, so I'm convinced that you need a good sales compensation plan, okay? I'm convinced that you reach out to clients and all that is important. But life in general is actually a lark, If things are going to be serious, you're going to take everything too intensely, I think you're better off working on a salary instead of trying to, create a product. We create a product, there has to be that a little bit of life is an adventure kind of.
And remember that there is no greater fallacy than this concept of best practices and lessons. As Nassim Nicholas Taleb points out, it's basically people largely get stuff done with a good amount of luck, but when they write best practices and lessons learned, they never mention that luck. It's always some strategic gyan that they somehow figured out, right? That they figured out after the fact. So always take all of these things with a pinch of salt. It's actually interesting, and I work in a very, very traditional large corporate kind of environment with the Tatas, and we often have discussions about basic things like dress code, whether we should wear ties, Victorian wigs, and barrister coats to office, or can we come dressed in attire that's suitable for Chennai weather and things like that. And eventually somebody basically started a campaign within the company that basically said that dress code doesn't matter, code matters. And so surprisingly enough, it was a punch of that line that that nobody could argue with. And eventually it did help sort of sensibly change our dress code policies.
Yeah. In fact, that when somebody asked me once whether social media should be allowed in the workplace, whether Facebook. And my theory is the biggest enemy of the workplace is the workplace. The moment you start looking at it as a bunch of people where slaves have to come and work,
cubicles.
Then you're not going to get work done.
Yeah, and then you have things like Lotus Notes and email.
I know. So, that's what. And of course, in technology, yes, once in a while, there are sites. I was racking my brain for examples to tell out here. But it is nice, when you do visit some products and technology, that little bit of humor that they put in there is as long as appropriate. Yeah. Till today, I remember, man, when was it? I think 1984 or something like Los Angeles Olympics.
Yeah, 84.
Like that.
84.
India hockey match. I was up at 1 o'clock waiting for that hockey match.
Yeah.
Doordarshan. At 1 o'clock, Doordarshan, that Sorry for the Break came off.
Yeah.
Sorry for the Break is okay. That time they decided to be funny.
The funny thing is,
it's a video break.
No. The funny thing is, Doordarshan would not just tell you sorry for the interruption. They'll give you one nerdcore technical reason. Delinking to regional Kendra or
that was not the interruption. They really had to do.
Really? Why would I care?
That's why even they used to start with that. Na? Band 1, channel 4, some megawatts, megahertz, something or other. Okay, it's, this thing. So, in tech products, that was another thing we said, dude, when things are going well, let's crack the jokes. When the 404 page, let's take it easy. When the guy is pissed off, maybe it's not the right time to,
so we basically have a rage face on one of the products. We believe we have a rage face in the 404 page. And then the software quality assurance guy raised a critical one defect saying that the 404 page has a scary face. This is actually logged a formal bug. The other thing is that, we have this nightmare trying to support certain browsers, especially Internet 8, IE8 and things like that. So after eventual frustration, the developers put in an error message that kind of displays for everybody who uses it on IE8 saying that you cannot drive a Ferrari on auto rickshaw wheels. And so that kind of, please upgrade. So essentially, so yeah, I mean, it's possible to use it in the right sense, and in some cases it'll work, and in many cases it may not work. As he said, it may polarize, but you should be able to laugh at yourself about it. So I think we should take questions. I think there's
you have questions on what? Not him yet.
It's like match fixing.
This is
this is a total match fixing. So you're talking about technology in humor or and humor.
Sorry?
Exactly.
That's it.
In humor or and humor.
We succeeded.
I think so.
So you spoke about technology and.
Yeah.
Technology and humor.
Yeah.
So you spoke about technology, you spoke about humor, you haven't spoken about.
You saw God.
So this is some sort of truth table.
Exactly.
Or and okay.
The God picture, he was putting an hand up. So
that
was there.
That's the match fixing. It's a ball to pick.
I mean, I'll probably make a slightly blade serious point, which is that every day you wake up, you have this choice of going to Twitter, finding a bunch of people who are not as smart as you, following them so that you can feel superior about it, right? And so that you can say, hey, your grammar is wrong, hey, you can't even smell. So you get a kick out of that. That's really why people go on Twitter. The second thing is that you can kind of realize, you just surf Wikipedia for
go to market experience.
Click on links. It'll sort of, you'll get this Hitchhiker's Guide total perspective vortex moment, which is that, geez, there is so much that I absolutely have no clue about. And I'm feeling good about being able to put a contemporarily valid English sentence on someone. I think, in some sense, I think the biggest joke is that we're all idiots. We're all ignorant. And we all operate on completely silly assumptions. And sometimes luck works out. And sometimes, it favors us. But we somehow think we vastly overestimate how better we are than others. Because if you subtract this net sum of everything from us to someone who cannot write an English sentence, the difference is not much. So that's basically what it is.
Hi, what's your take on the PM? You just mentioned about some PM deadline being missed by a few minutes. What's your take on the new PM race between Namo and
Namo? I hate all of them. Okay, so that's the one. So I generally, I'm a kook here. I'm a libertarian kind of kook. I believe in, no government and stuff like that. But it just so happens that in my tweets, if you read, you'll think I'm strongly Namo simply because Rahul allows you to make more fun of him. He gives you more opportunities, but it doesn't really,
Yes, I think he has also slightly less active troll managers.
Yeah, that's true.
Work on his behalf also.
Correct.
It's much harder to make fun of Namo without sort of getting beaten.
So actually, I'm, in politics, I'm just not. If I would like India to be more of a federation, if a chief minister is good, then maybe you should continue being chief minister instead of going and doing the next job, right? Which I don't think we should need. I want to be like Switzerland, whose PM you won't even know, a president or something like that.
Have you ever royally screwed up, and how have you dealt with it? While trying to be really funny, and then the joke's on you. So how do you sort of deal with that? Like say at work or at some other place? Probably
See,
better.
Last 10 years, it's not happened simply because I've been the boss. Okay, so
that kind of.
Very rarely have people not laughed at my jokes, okay?
And I'm assuming you probably don't make fun of your potential customers.
Yeah, sometimes it's contractual. Like, seriously, okay? It's part, when I did BCCI contract and all, I have a gag, okay? That's true.
You will not make fun.
Yeah. I was just saying, should I tell this publicly or not? And then I remember BCCI put a gag, they didn't put a gag on me talking about the contract,
gag,
so I think I'm okay, right? So, yeah, but finally it's fun now. So what if you crack a joke and people don't laugh, They're shameless. That's all. We used to, no, without being shameless, you wouldn't even try telling a joke. Because you'll be worried whether somebody likes it or not.
Without being shameless.
I actually, I make jokes for myself, man. I find it funny. I giggle at my own jokes, okay? And that's good enough if others also like it. So that also, if you start worrying about, okay, this is my target audience and this is what this thing life means rude, very difficult, right? So if it falls flat, falls flat. In IIT, we used to have a code to say beep, okay? If you tell a joke and nobody laughs, you have to say beep, which means that other people have to laugh. So we had one mutual arrangement for, stuff like that.
I have a question, like, how do you inculcate this sort of a culture, humor culture in the team? So if you have a team, a mix of people, but they may not come out and.
True. I mean, it usually helps if you can make fun of yourself.
It helps.
Right? So in the sense that you don't, I mean, if you're, so it helps if you make fun of yourself, and it helps if you are able to first let people know that you don't take everything that you do that seriously. That's quite important.
First is the thing. Yeah, it's okay. People should know it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah, nothing.
They don't have to be complete. They don't have to be embarrassed about it and things like that.
It's I think it's a sign of insecurity here. If if your team somebody makes fun and you don't like it,
and you don't like it, and people are afraid to.
So if you combine shamelessness with supreme ego, so nothing what people can say can hurt you, then you can take jokes on you.
No, but at the same time, I mean, some very project management MBA types and all will say that I would like the team by end of day to please fill this Excel sheet with a joke targeted at me and things like that. So that also is probably pushing it a bit the other end. But yes, but the general idea is that and plus, I mean, as I said, my way is always constantly reminding myself of how much I don't know. Okay? And there is just so much. There is just so much to learn. There's so much to explore. And I play music, and then I watch YouTube videos of 5-year-old Korean kids playing Bach, and and their videos put up, and then okay, I can be sort of, so then I don't mind if people say you're playing sucks. Otherwise, we take it very sensitively that people criticize us. When you know that there are 5-year-old kids who are geniuses, and same thing with pretty much everything.
Okay. Pranks, I don't remember. We kind of make fun of each other. Yeah, that's all. And we follow the lowest form of humor. We stereotype everybody. It's simple. Yeah. There's a guy called Shivram Dega who's very fond of food, so we make fun. It's all very lowest common denominator stuff. And he comes up with the best. What are those called? Dega says. We have come out with a trip also. Because Dega, he's a programmer. If it doesn't work, he has a bunch of very, very innovative excuses. Okay. Yeah. First one, it worked on my machine. Okay. It worked yesterday. Okay, so actually, what? We just make fun of each other. In our office, nobody is above anything, and nobody is, nobody is immune to fun. And pranks wise, no, yeah, we're too lazy to actually, do the elaborate setup needed for a prank.
So on the contrary, we're able to do elaborate pranks because in the last 1 year, I've been sort of building and running this large internal social network that TCSers use. And so as developers, we get to do pranks using actual code and actually fool people while they're using the system and all that. So we've run these. So there's this interesting thing where a bunch of guys are discussing a specific bug, and some other guys are trying to help him on that blog post, and there's commenting going on, and then this guy's saying that, can you please try this? And that guy basically says, I cannot able to reproduce. And so we basically took a photo of the guy cannot able to reproduce, and it basically got attached to all bug reports where the testing team was not able to reproduce, the developer was not able to reproduce, so it became cannot able to reproduce. And so, and the other thing is, so on April Fool's Day, we kind of made the submit button move around as people tried to post something. It was simple pranks like that. And at 3:14 every day, the submit button changes to a random quote from a Vadivel comedy sort of movie in Tamil. Random, completely. It completely freaks out people who don't understand Tamil because sort of, you know, they say, what is this? Why did the submit button? So for the period from 3:14:00 to that 1 minute, the button will tell you something random. And things like that. So the error messages, you know, we prank people with error messages. Like the Ferrari wheels auto rickshaw one, and so on. The other one is that we also have we also play video games in the office. So we sort of have this because my lab does work on gamification. So we've justified to our management that we should be playing a lot of games. And so we have board games, Settlers of Catan and Carrom Board and things like that. But in addition to that, open source, you know, Quake 3 based shooters that we have formal teams. There are stats going back to the last 3.5 years of who's got the most kills and things like that. And you know, and people who join the team new are put through some interesting pranks while the first time they play. The other guys gang up and shoot them and so on. So this is basically this one guy who likes who's always in office in his free time. He's always reading Times of India online. He's not actually reading Times of India. He's basically looking at the pictures of Bollywood stuff, which is pretty much most of what the site is. Then what he basically, so we saw this. So what one of these guys did is actually take one of those pictures of, I think it was Selena Jaitley or someone like that, and basically put it inside the game where we were having this multiplayer shooting match. So every time he would come there, his virtual character would sit and actually look at the that picture, and then other guys would then throw grenades.
Oh, very hardcore, man.
So this is sort of nerdcore pranking.
I think some time issues.
Yeah, we have time issues. I'm really sorry. Don't want
All
to
right.
stop this.
Thank you.
But as you can see, these guys are undeclared king of pornography, and do you think their devotion deserves a standing ovation?